Welcome back to what is the last episode for now at the extension build, which is fitting the kitchen. We've already done one episode of fitting the kitchen last week. We finished up fitting all this bit and all this bit and all the bit in there. This is all fitted in there, look. And I've still got all this lot to go. So if you're interested, stick around, because I'm going to start it now by moving all this temporary kitchen and dishwasher setup. Okay, so this episode doesn't become a bit of a time-lapse fest, because I'm trying to film the episode that, if you haven't watched it, last Tuesday I did a bit of a how-to on how I fit kitchens and how little tips and tricks that I use to help me. So I'm sort of trying to do two and try and remember where I am, so I don't, one of the episodes doesn't suffer. So what I've done, as you saw, I got all this out, covered myself in dirty water at the sink in the meantime, picking the sink up because I forgot to take the dishwasher waste stuff, but there we go. I'm sure I'll dry, it's warm enough. I've then got myself set. I've got my plan out, you've already seen. Got this plan. I'll then set it on my wall, my base units, so I know where they all are, including where that's going, which is right on the end. I've then levelled myself up on the wall, which is what you can see now. That's on the wall there, look. Ready to go. I've then set out my brackets to put my wall cupboards on. Again, I did talk about the fact you can get long strips of these brackets, but I don't bother when I've got solid walls like this. These things, you can get a long strip of them to make it a little bit easier. But then you have to cut the backs off your cupboards, notch your cupboards out. So that's all I've done so far. I've got this ready. I shall now go ahead and drill all my holes for my wall cupboards, and I can hang those on then. And then ultimately I'll just level down to my base units to get them all in line. I have in the past, as I've already discussed last week, I do sometimes put the base units in first, and I did actually put that one in first to allow myself to level up to that one to get it exact, because I didn't want to start measuring across this distance here. I didn't want to do that. I've just used my laser that I talked about last week actually, that I really love, this laser here. I'll turn it off, stop it glaring. It's been superb. I can't say enough about it for what it costs, because I looked at lasers and thought, that's a bit cheap. And I mentioned this stand as well. This is from Hoopar as well, if I'm pronouncing it right. I'm using it as my camera stand. It's brilliant. So I've used that to establish the correct height over there for my wall cupboards, to make sure they're all in line. I know you're not going to see it, but that's not the point, is it? They've all got to be right, aren't they? So I've got these over there done, and now I'm going to hang them on the wall. cupboards are on. I managed to get a couple of fixings in my stud work that's in the doorway, if you remember that as well. In there, I managed to put a couple of fixings into the upright studs, so that's got that nice and solid, which I'm pleased about. So now I just simply start from this end. I made sure, what you got to make sure, if your walls are a mess, is when you put these on, that it's nice and flat, which it is. The other thing I established as well was that I've had to put a mixture of 9 and 10 mil packers at the bottom again to pick them out so that make sure they're nice and plumb. Just the state of the walls, nothing I can do about it really. And on the wall cupboards, there isn't as much space like on a base unit to cut your service void down. So I don't cut wall cupboards, back of wall cupboards. I just pack out and that's it. And on the ends, you get covered with a decor panel anyway, so you can't see it. This one in particular is going to be a tall end panel when that's where the fridge is going, so that'll be covered as well. So I think what I'll do now is I'll level down, like I've already discussed, level down base units, and I've only got 2,000 base units to put in here, so that's quite simple. And then once I've done that, I can scribe my tall end support panel on there, and then get my bridging unit in above my fridge, and great, that's excellent, I'm really pleased. We're moving, and then once I've done that, I can move on to the island. I do all my doors, scribes, handles last, because it means that I can put everything away that I don't need, clear everything, sweep everything, and I've only got my MFT out then with my chop saw on, because I'll do a Cornice and pelmet as well. Get my chop saw, table saw, and then I've got loads of room. But I want to get this in so I can get the plumber here to start looking at doing the plumbing works for the sink, the Belfast sink. So there we are, I'll do that now, and we'll have a chat about the island in a minute, setting it out and what I'm doing with that and what's going to be in it. So this is how we left it last night, looking a hell of a lot tidier and a lot more space now. You can really see the space forming. Got all these units in, as you know, I've got all these on, got all those set. I thought I'd only got 2,000 base units to put in, and then forgot about that one. So I put that in. I had to pull that end out a little bit because that wall bellied like this a little bit from that point. So I set that one tight to the wall, and when I got to here, I was sticking out 7 mil there, so I had to pull the cupboards out and then line them back in again. Put my first panel on. That's all scribed nice and tidy to the wall. That wall was a right mess, but it's on and it's scribed. I then set up, before I went, I then just used a couple of the cupboards just to set up where the island's going to go, because I'm going to centralise the worktop, not the cupboards. So the 900 or 910 it might be, worktop will be in the centre of this space here. Therefore, obviously the cupboard's going to be to one side, to give us about a 300 mil overhang, which is normal for your breakfast bar area, to allow you to sit under it and get your knees in. So I'm going to remove all of this now, remove these cupboards out of the way, set myself out properly, and then start installing my cupboards from that far end. Now I know I've got a set dimension, because I needed the customer to check this dimension here and how far it went into the kitchen, which they're happy with. So I'll start doing that, and then, or maybe just before I do that, I might even put that panel on first and move the fridge back into the hole so it's not in my way. Yes, I think I'll do that first. So we've moved on a bit. That's looking at the time lapse, you've seen what I've done. I put the bridging unit in, that's all in there, and that panel is all scribed to the wall. I levelled down onto my floor off here to get my exact dimension. I went old school and used a chalk line on the floor because I was going to get my laser up, but I thought, you know what, against I've done that, I could just chalk line it, so I've done that. And then I squared off it, and I put a square mark on the floor. I have then made sure, as I've been moving and shifting, I've just gone parallel to this wall. There's a little bit of discrepancy with the parallel of the walls. Plus I think as well, I talked about the state of the walls, and I've put this one fits tight, but that end I'm 10 mil off the wall, 15 mil off the wall. You know, that's probably where my discrepancy as well. Put these in. When you're doing islands, I find the best method for me is get one perfect, put another one next to it, get that sorted perfect, and then screw them together. You can move it and shift it easier when it's in a mass like that, I think, rather than doing two individual cupboards and try and level them in, because you will chase your tail a little bit. I've then had to chop out my screed there because my waste pipe was sort of sitting there like that. But as it is, I know which way it goes this way. My water pipe's come up perfect into here, which is what we sort of worked on, but my pipe was just needed to be that way, about 30-40 mil really, just to get into the back of the cupboard. But as it is, because I've got this service void and this is a Belfast sink, it's worked out better to do it that way anyway, because I've had to kick it over. So, you know, anyway, chop that out. I could just fill that with some sand cement, and then it'll be latexed over. But as it is, you probably only see that much maybe, because I've got to put a panel on there yet. This is the back. I've left a bit of a void there. I'll show you why that is later on. And then I've started to set this. I'm going to run my plinth all the way through on that one against there, because that is now a dishwasher opening, and I don't like seeing the side of the dishwasher or trying to run through and join a plinth, because if you want to get the dishwasher in and out, you have to start taking all your plinth off. And when the floor's got to be done yet anyway, it's just a better option. So like I said, I've put all that in there, look, chopped that in there, ready for the plumber to come in and mess with that and change things and change it to copper and whatever he wants to do. Screwed it all together, that panel's fixed. I've just levelled across to that panel, across the front, because that level screw, that screed's level, it was half a mil, 880 and a half. So there we are, happy with that. I just about got a packer, a 1 mil packer in the end, just to give me that half a mil. So I'm going to set that now, cut that to the same depth as this one, which is a thickness of a panel. Sticking out further, like that. That'll be on there. And like I said, the reason for that, I will talk about later on in the episode. So I'm going to get this one cut, and then I'll get my end one cut then to the same width as that. And then my decor end panel, my large one, is there, but I've got to join it again because they've come in. It's a 8 foot. That's the biggest one as far as I'm aware. So I've got to join it, and I'll join it at the back there, I think, because there's a hangover. You won't really see the join anyway. So there we are. I'll set this, cut it all, and then I'll put my end panels on, and hopefully that'll be that. So I've been away for a day. Bit of sneaky footage for you to see what we're up to at the moment, but that's where I've just been, helping Matt and Luke get those steels in. to have a quick look and talk about now the time lapse and where we were when I left you, because I didn't update you straight away because I had a bit of a late finish. Since I was here, the customs had a delivery, dishwasher, cooker hood, cooker, and the radiators at the back. So we're all ready now to go. Everyone's booked in to come. Myself and the customer managed to get the fridge in. That plug socket will eventually go in the back of it there anyway, and the isolation is over there, I believe, on a grid switch for that, for the switch behind there. What else was there? So we did all of this. I think I talked about this already. I talked about the fact all this was all scribed in, but then we moved on to putting this on. I didn't talk about it at the time because I had a bit of a realisation and a bit of an upset that I thought this was one complete panel, but it wasn't. I'll go check the box, it was only an 8-foot one, so I've had to join it. I decided to do my join over there so I can bridge all of this, especially this part here, with a complete panel, unless I would have been there with a join and that wouldn't have worked. I told you about setting all this out, or did I? Or is that in the video when I talked about how to? Anyway, I put my spacers on, using the timbers, bit of a spacer to maintain the 600 opening. I then pocket screwed all that inside, look, to the panel, all there. And I put a couple of pocket screws in the bottom there as well, and I used some of that Gorilla Glue again. Luckily for me, about the same time I was trying to do this on my own, my dad come to see if I wanted a cup of coffee, because he lives next door, and he helped me put this in. I've put spacers in there for the reason that when we put the boxes on, in fact I can show you exactly what I mean, because there's one. Because if you try and put these in the back of an island or the side of an island, if you don't do this, you end up with cables in your cupboard. So if you look at that now, look, you can multi that in, and they can then screw that to the back of the cupboard, look, and then get his pins in, and there's no cables at all then in your cupboard, because they drop down that void and underneath the worktop, underneath the cupboards. So we put all this corner in, and I pocket screwed all this corner and glued it, and so with the help of my dad, luckily, and put that join in there, and you can, I don't know, you might be able to see it, look, a little bit. Yeah, you try your best, but because it's grained and it's not smooth and flat like this, you're always going to see it. Excuses for myself again, but you're always going to see it. But I was really, really pleased with that. We then, extra fixings then, we put some screws in the back of there, look, you can just about see them, and in the bottom of there as well, just to glue and screw that in tight, and then glue and screwed it into the side as well, to make sure it doesn't move. We got this out the box to show the customer, and they're really happy with that. Well, they will be once it's all plumbed in, of course I will. But apart from that, I think that is now you up to date with everything we've done. So microwave going in there, so we're going to have to move the cable, because it was happening, then it wasn't happening, because we weren't sure whether we could get one, but we clearly can. So that'll be done now and sorted. All my clips are on. I'll get myself efficient by sorting out the clips and the hinges out my box, and then put all my clips on first. A bit of a spare one. So I've done that. I sat on my Milwaukee trolley just to save me back a little bit, and been round and put on everywhere. There's no more clips to go on. That's just a bit of a spare. And now we use Blum hinges, so the standard clip on and off, and they're self-closing as well. We're now looking at doors. Now with chase bedrooms and kitchens, you have to put the doors on yourself. Now I know some kitchen companies, I'm not going to mention them, that I've done in the past. The doors came already installed. Fair enough. I mean, Chase do put the holes in for you, but what I have found is because it gets delivered in the back of a van or back of a wagon, and people dropping it off may or may not be thinking about what they're having to move and having to carry, and the fact that when it's on a cupboard in a van, a cupboard with a piece of cardboard, when you set the cardboard off, there's nothing stopping that getting damaged, is there? So as efficient as people may think it is to have it come like that, it's actually not that difficult to put it on yourself. The clips are simple because everything's pre-drilled. You get yourself a centralising bit like this one, look. Pre-center, and then you just centralise your holes onto your doors, and it's easy. They send all the screws with it as well. So it's that simple. So don't always go for what you think's the easy option, because I can tell you from experience, if a door gets damaged with those sort of places, that you could be waiting 3 or 4 weeks for a replacement door, and then your kitchen can't get finished. And if you're a kitchen fitter, also bear in mind that if the customer isn't realistic in the fact that it's not your fault, you might find yourself not getting paid because that door's not on, even though it's not your fault. Experience talking there. So I'm going to move on now. I've got myself all efficient. If I just spin the camera around, I've moved all my doors, look, and hinges, put them all in the order, width and height, got all my labels pointing the same way so I can read them. But I'm going to start down there first. Bit of a black hole down there, isn't it? Because of the sunlight. I'm starting my small doors first, work my way out, and then I'm going to move on to putting all this on first. So this is all tidy, and the customers can have their utility side of things back and start filling cupboards, really. Other than I've got to put a scribe on down there and the cornice on along the top. So I'm going to move on, get myself set up, as I've already done there, look, putting some of the smaller doors on the cupboard ready. Got all my drill bits and screws ready. These doors are on, and I've adjusted them like slightly where where necessary, to make sure the gaps are nice and parallel with each other and all the same. All these doors are on. All I need to look at now is putting again, these have been adjusted a little bit as well, and I just need to decide to put the joining bars on to join the doors. I have used to dowel them before, but then I found that for some reason, because there's no movement on a dowel between the two doors, it does tend to bind a little bit, and I don't know why. Maybe when the doors start to move, especially the wood grain ones, I don't know. Anyway, so at least with the joining bars, and when I say joining bars, I mean these things between the doors. I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of movement. I don't know why it does it, but it seems to. And this is south facing, so we get a lot of sun as well, so just be careful of that. So get some joining bars on those doors, but that's looking quite nice. I'm happy with that. I've obviously got the rest of the kitchen to do yet. There's still plenty of doors to get through. One on there, so my drawer fronts over there. So I'm going to be fitting in the appliances. But that's me for today. A couple of hours just to get myself pushed on and get everything organised, ready for tomorrow. So I'll see you in the morning. straight back onto it this morning. What I wanted to try and do was complete this side, other than that scribe there and the plinth, which I do those together anyway. All the scribes, all the plinths, so I haven't done that yet. I've started to get the cornice on. I've started to get that on, set myself up in there for the saw, and I was going to start doing all these, but then I thought, you know what, I'll stop and I'll get all this complete. So I've got all the handles on, I've got all the door joining brackets on, that one, just on there, which covers the holes for the handles anyway. And then you saw me install these things here, which are in effect, you drill your holes at your certain centres, as per that. You put your screw in to the side of the gables either side, and then once you've finished that, you put that on the shelf in and then turn it and it locks it in. And what that does, if you can imagine, because it's so tall, the cupboards can sort of do that, not underweight, but under their own weight, to sort of start to do that and open up in the middle. And what happens then is that when you've got your doors closed, you find your doors start to touch in the middle there. And that's the reason why. You try and adjust them, but no matter what you do, you can't help it because the height of the cupboard. What these do, it locks it in tight. So if you are going to put anything like this in, rather than just the little shelf brackets that you sit your shelf on a tall cupboard, you want to be locking the shelf in, really, at least one in the middle, to try and stop that happening, because it will happen, I can guarantee you that. So I've got all those in, and that's all done now. That's complete. So what I'm going to do now is set myself back up again, ready for cornice and pelmet along the wall cupboards there, and on top of the fridge, and on top of this tall housing here. I'll get all those installed now, and then I'll move on to the doors. So I should get that done first, and I'll talk you through what's going to happen next.
I was waiting in the undertow, set adrift with featherweight light bows, unaware of where my heart would flow. I was waiting in the undertow, can't touch the bottom, sit into a tumble, waves that shake me out of my skin. Never been so easy, losing my direction. My bearings have me south of home, but I've been wrong before. I was waiting in the undertow, set adrift with featherweight light bows, unaware of where my heart would flow. I was waiting in the undertow. And the water feels like a friend.
Had a day yesterday with Sean the plumber doing the first fix heating and plumbing at the garage conversion, so hopefully there'll be another episode of that out shortly. Back at the kitchen, got a lot to do today before I then go and meet Luke at the other job to start sorting out and get ready for the roof. All the corners and pelmets are on, they're all completed now, and I've got the pull-out doors fitted as well. They're all done, and as you can see, all the knobs are fitted as well. So what jobs I've got left to do are fitting the dishwasher door. Oh, that's gone in as well, and I've cut a hole in the back of that cupboard to get to the taps after, once you put the worktop on. So I've got to put that on. I've got to put the drawer fronts on, so I've got 6 drawer fronts there, and I've got drawer fronts in there to do as well, and I've got my scribes to do down here. Oh, and plinths, got plinths to do as well. I've got my saw out because I've got to cut that one down because I set that on a piece of 145 timber, so I'm going to cut that down another 10mm to less than that to allow for the flooring. But all these should just clip on because I set my base units normally at about 160 to then give me the 10mm that I require for my flooring. But if I have to come back and plane the top off them, it's really no big deal. Probably take me half an hour. So we're back for our final day, and I'm joined by Sean, the plumber and gas engineer, to second fix the sink and put the radiators on, which I think I've already talked about in the episode earlier, that I'd left myself a couple of hours to do today, just so I was here with Sean to help me lift the radiators on, because they're not small ones. The last skip has been filled, and we're ready to have a good tidy up, and I've got a few things left to do today, so let's have a look. So previous to this, you'd seen me putting the plinths on. They are all completed other than the one down there. I can't think what else I did after that, so you'll have to bear with me if I've missed it. All the handles have gone on, all the knobs have gone on. I think I did that first or last, I can't remember. Again, because I said in another video that I'm trying to do 2 videos, which is a bit of a Tuesday video, a bit of a tips and things, and this one, so I've lost track a little bit where I was. But we are now at a point where I've got to put the dishwasher door on. I've got to put the remainder of the scribes on. I did one the other day, put that one on there again, so that just scribe to the wall look, and then encapsulates and frames all of this wall, which is quite nice, and I'll show you how I do that in a minute. I've got to put one over there, I've got to put one down there, and I've got to put one the other side of that cupboard there, and then apart from that I've got to put drawer fronts on, so I've got 6 there and I've got 3 inside that cupboard there. And that is me for today then, and that is me done. So we'll be having a tidy up, all this will be gone, swept up, cleaned up, and then it'll be left to the customers and what is left for Craig, the electrician, to do the second fix electrics. Sean is round there, setting out for the flat radiator on the wall. That'll look quite nice white one. So I think we best get on with something. Difficult to show you, but they're all done, but that's on now. Happy with that. I've already showed you that one. That one's on, all finished. And the one, you just have to trust me, that one's done as well. But Sean's getting there now to get all this radiator on the wall, which I'll give him a lift on with in a minute. Which is why I'm here really, to get the lift on with that rad and the one behind me, because they're quite heavy. So now my doors are done. I'm going to move on to my dishwasher door. I don't think there's much to say about that one, so I'll just get that on and fixed. Get this door on, and then we'll have a look at the final job, which is the drawers, before we can close down this episode, I think. So that is it for our kitchen videos, and also the end of this series. For now anyway. I have actually got to come back and put these end panels on, but I won't be filming that because, well, I've already put enough end panels on in this job, I think, to show you what we've been doing. Sean's done all the plumbing under there, that's all ready to go. We've ended up cutting a bit of a hole there in the top, just to drop the flexi hoses from the tap straight into it, hopefully, fingers crossed. Handles have gone on, drawer fronts went on, this went on. I had to change this because I forgot about this thickness, so I'd measured it all, put it on and thought, oh, I was 18mm too low, so I had to take it back off and re-put the brackets on, which isn't a big deal. So that's that done. That's it completed. For all the finer details, such as how we adjust drawer fronts and how we set out base units and tool units and the handle jig I was just using, all that kind of stuff, there's a video next week on Tuesday, just going through all of that. Not really much doing, just a lot of pointing and showing and what I'm up to and how I do things, really, how I make it easy for myself when I'm doing things. So I hope you enjoyed that episode when it comes out next week, next Tuesday, for Tuesday 8. Thank you very much for watching this video and the whole of this series on behalf of myself, Matt and Luke. Thank you very much. We will see you on the next one, where it might be that our new job that we've started, that you had a bit of a sneaky preview earlier in the episode on, we put the steels in, or it may be another one from the garage conversion. We'll have to see.